we go. Hello, Satnam.
Hi.
So wonderful to have you. I'm so excited to have you. I'm here with me, talking to me. It's like, wow. Thank you so much.
It's a bit weird to do it. It's a bit weird doing it on online, isn't it? Because usually it's face to face. And in the past, I've interviewed you.
Yeah, well, for once I can interview you. How does it feel, me interviewing you?
It always feels odd when people are asking questions asking questions to a journalist and broadcaster. But then I suppose it also helps me as well with a bit of empathy when I'm doing it for other people.
So look, I'm gonna start with the real basics. We all love you, and most of us know who you are. So do you want to tell us? I want to say it in the style of Cilla Black. What's your name and what do you do?
So my name's Satnam Rana. That's a TV name, and I've stuck to my maiden name because I guess that's what I started off on. And even though I got married, I decided to keep that as my on-screen identity because I'd worked so hard for it, and I didn't particularly think that I wanted to hand over the married name to 10, 15 years of hard graft when I got married. That's my feminism in me. And then I am the arts and culture correspondent at the moment for BBC Midlands Today here in the West Midlands.
Wonderful. And so do you want me to call you Satnam or Sati or I don't know?
No, Satnam. Do you know, that's really weird because last night as I was floating off to sleep, I thought to myself, if you were going to write a book, what are the things you would write in it? And one of the chapters I'd write about would be names, because I was always Satnam at school. And then I did a job at Wolverhampton retail market as a 16-year-old and suddenly became Sam until the age of about 18 because people couldn't cope with Satnam. And then I went off to university and I became Satnam and sometimes Sat. And then I left university and I joined 5 Live and I became Sati. And then when I came back to the Midlands Today, I consciously said to myself, no more acronyms for my name and no more nicknames. It's Satnam. That's what my parents named me. So here I am, Satnam Rana.
Are you kind of quite precise in the sense of, because it could be said Satnam or Satnam. Are you kind of, oh, I've kind of adopted it. It's like my name. My mum would call me Vimal. But over time, I've been called Vimal, and I'm very comfortable being called either Vimal or Vimal. Are you kind of similar, or are you kind of...
No. Yeah, I mean, Nick Owen calls me Satters. Ashley Blake used to call me Satnam. Most people call me Satnam. It's absolutely fine. There are always going to be variations of pronunciation. It doesn't take away from the person I am.
I mean, we kind of slightly, I was going to go down a different route, but it's quite interesting in terms of the names. And it kind of ties in with all our identity, doesn't it? You know, that whole kind of thing of when you're kind of growing up and you're going, I accepted for being called that, whereas I might not have really wanted to be called that. So you kind of go, I just went with it. It's like saying to somebody, what's your name? And they go, John. And you go, can I change it to Jayesh? You know, and it's like, it's a bit odd. But what happens, I think, with many people from Asian communities or away from Western names, that we kind of have accepted it, you know. Though I faced a lot of racism when I was growing up. Maybe, I don't know, did you kind of encounter things like that?
No, I think more microaggressions and, you know, systems and structures along the way in adult working life, but not overt in my face calling out racism. I lived in France for a year and, you know, I was used to people coming up to me and saying, mais comment tu es anglaise? You know, and they do this to my skin, well, how can you be English? And so it was really interesting because that was a pivotal point in my thinking. I suddenly then took on this identity of saying I was Anglo-Asiatic, but I wasn't really Anglo-Asian. That's the only way I could describe it to the French guys. I'd say, je suis Anglo-Asiatique, j'ai né en Angleterre, mes parents sont indiennes, and all that sort of stuff. And I try and explain parents originally from India. We've got, I've got Indian heritage, but I'm British by birth. It's all this duality and complexity of I guess, explaining to people who don't necessarily know. But that's the thing about me. I love people asking because I'm quite open and happy to explain the nuances and sometimes the confusion and sometimes the complexities, because open dialogue is how we learn.
And I assume there's always that thing of when you answered a call and you spoke and then you gave your name and they went, oh, but you sound white.
Then, when I went to France, my envelope said Joanne Rana. It actually just looked at my name, Satnam, and just thought, no, that can't be possible.
Wonderful.
I was like, how have you got Joanne here?
Well, if it makes you feel...
There's so many incidents like that through my upbringing, and I laugh about them because, you know, you've got to add a bit of humour to be able to deal with these things. But if I look back at them, they were just like, some of them were just unbelievable.
So was your French name Joanne then?
No, that was the French name amongst my English fellow English students, but you know, it was a bit of a laugh. They were like, Joanne, how did they come to Joanne? I was like, I think they just looked at it and sat there and said, that was Siege.
That's very similar to my story in the sense I was at school. I can't speak French really, and so they were going through all the names, and they went, John, you're Jean, Philip, you're Philippe, and then they came to my name and they went, Vimal, you're Gilbert. How do you get Gilbert from, Vimal? But look, it's back to you.
We digress.
Yes. So Satnam, you're a journalist. Did you always want to be a journalist?
Yeah, I'm one of those crazy kids. So when I was young growing up, I used to force my parents to buy stamps so I could send in programme ideas, stories, to programmes like Why Don't You, which is me showing my age now. It used to be a programme that used to come on during the school holidays at 9:30, I remember, which was bizarre because the opening credits used to say, why don't you turn off your TV set and do something less boring instead. But we were watching the TV. And I was really enthused when I got twice a press pack through from them. And then that sort of really ignited that whole interest in media, and I guess not broadcasting, but that sort of relationship, that line to the BBC and programming. Yeah, I just spoke with my parents. I used to spend the school holidays and my break times writing scripts and sending them into CBBC or whatever it was called then, Children's TV, with Philip Schofield and some of the other.
And what I want to hear you now say is that you inspired a particular program now that's on TV. Come on, hit it, say it.
I'd love to say that, but I don't think I ever have inspired a particular program. I've created programming in my adult years, but I don't think. Well, if any of those scripts did, I mean, I can't even remember what the scripts were about. I just know that I used to sit on the top playing field at school and my friends used to come to say, what are you doing? And I said, I'm writing a script for the competition for the children's TV. Crazy girl. So that was really that was my expression of sort of interest, I guess, in journalism. But then I remember the one incident, which I always repeat in interviews, sitting in the living room and watching TV and saying to my mum, oh, I'm going to be on TV one day. And she literally went like that. She went, silly girl, so then in Punjabi, silly girl, this and that, because my uncle was there, and she was like, don't say things like that. But I just kind of thought, why is she saying that to me? And I think the seed had already been sown in my head, because this is what I was going to do. And so as I went through school, I used to write for the school magazine. I created school magazine. I reached out to Wolverhampton Community Radio Station in my late teens, doing sort of GCSE A levels, to record our newsletter for our partially sighted children at school, because it was always printed on red paper with black ink and they couldn't really read it. So I was like, oh, can I do an audio version purely so that I could get into the radio station and get some access to people who were making content. And bizarrely enough, I work alongside one of them now. He remembers me coming in during the summer holidays and doing the What's On guide for Wolverhampton Community Radio Station. So it was always there. Yeah.
So, I mean, was there ever that thing in terms of, I know times are changing now very much so, whereby, though we could still argue, no, they haven't changed with some elements of it, which we may go into. You've got that whole thing of the Asian community. And again, this whole thing about acceptance and allowing you to do what you want to do. You know, you're Asian, you're female, you want to be a journalist. Was that something that was seen within your family, whereby No, 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 no. As you said, your mum said, "Stupid girl, don't say that." Was there that element of where it came, we're accepting it now, or was it a case of no, no, Satnam, you need to be a doctor, you need to be an accountant? I mean, I'm stereotyping now, but obviously there were all those kind of things.
Well, my mum was, my mum is a retired nurse, so she was a nurse as I was growing up, and I was the eldest of 4 daughters, so we had all sorts of things we were dealing with all the time. And I think they never discouraged me. They kind of looked at me in a muted fashion, thinking, how's she going to do that? It's the BBC, and nobody in our family's done that. So, you know, she's crazy, but she'll change her mind at some point. So there were occasions, I remember, when I had a conversation with my mum about, well, why don't you do child studies? Well, I don't want to do child studies, Mum. I'm not interested in that. I'm going to do physics instead. Or I'm going to do English lit and history. And that was sort of like probably around the time of GCSE and A-levels, when we were deciding what to do. I ended up doing French history and English lit at A-level. And then when it came to university, again, I was still barking on about wanting to get into journalism. But my mum, thankfully, convinced me to sort of do something which was a bit more open and that I enjoyed, so that I could go into whatever I wanted to should I change my mind throughout my university years, which of course I didn't. Instead, I joined the radio station and broke down a few barriers there as well at Lancaster University. So they never discouraged me, but they worried. They were worried that I was pursuing something which was unattainable for a normal working class South Asian family, you know, where mum and dad have done well, and particularly my mum's side of the family, everything is driven from the point of education can help you, because that is a notion in a lot of BAME communities, that, you know, one form of liberation from stuff is through education. No one can take that away from you, and that was the ethos that we were brought up on. I think the crux point for me was, when I came back after my GCSEs from America, spent 8 weeks there, and my uncle drove me back to Wolverhampton, my mamaji, my youngest uncle, Amric. And Amric said to me, "My girl, if you are really serious about getting into journalism, you just get some experience on that CV. Now, no one's particularly going to understand what you're doing, they might not particularly get why you want to do this, but if you're going to do it, you're going to have to prove to them." And it was just that chat, a couple of hours in the car with him, that made me even more determined. I think I had it in me, but then he encouraged it. And that was it. It was cemented, and I did. I went off and got lots of work experience and found myself working for BBC. So, you know. I
bet your mum and dad, the day you were there on the BBC, they filmed it. Everyone that came round to your house went, "You've got to watch this," and everyone was forced to watch it.
The first job at the BBC was printing off scripts for Victoria Derbyshire and Julian Morica, and bringing guests up and making cups of tea. That was my job, and then logging calls and what have you. So they were really pleased that I'd got into the BBC, but I had to explain to my mum, I'm doing a broadcast assistant job. This is an entry-level job. I will work my way up. I promise you, this is what I want to do, and I'll work really hard and work my way up. But you're right, they were proud, because
why not?
Because it was the BBC, and especially I found my family in India were sort of, really proud, and have always been very proud, because it's such a huge trademark, which we sometimes take for granted in our domestic affairs. But across the world, it is a trusted media organisation, so there was a huge amount of pride. You know what it's like? Our parents don't particularly sort of say, "Oh, Beta, I'm really proud of you," overtly. They tend to do it via friends. So I used to find out from my mum's friends, "Oh, she's really proud of what you achieved." Yeah. But it was my dad on our wedding day, actually. When he had to do a speech, which I'm always nervous about when my dad does speeches, because they're never organised or prepped up. I remember him saying in front of a whole load of my colleagues that when Satnam told us she wanted to do journalism, we didn't really know how she was going to go and do this. But then she went and did it, and here she is. And he said it with such he said it with such pride, and it means so much more, because when you're dealing with a wall of silence, because that's just the way his way is most of the time. On the odd occasion when he's expressed that pride, I just know how deep rooted
Yeah.
it is and how authentic it is. And I don't often talk about these things because we don't tend to, do we?
No, we don't. I mean, you are. I mean, you're an inspiration to all of us. I think to many people, to myself, to other Asians. I remember first seeing you when I first saw you on TV, and it was that reaction of, "Oh, look, there's an Asian who's working." Honestly, because I think there was very few, and so I think not only inspiration for myself and many others, where you kind of think I can get into media, not necessarily in terms of journalism, but getting into theatre, doing acting, that kind of stuff, because those are the subjects which people are kind of like, well, you can't do that. You're Asian, and it's and parents don't expect you to kind of be in those particular career paths itself. But what I was going to ask you was, so you've inspired me and many others. Who inspired you?
I used to listen to Sonia Diol on the radio quietly in my box room at home, and Vimal, you've made me weep a little bit here.
You're allowed.
I used to listen to Sonia Diol on the radio, and I used to think to myself, if there's a female Asian woman on BBC Radio, she can do it. I can do it, and I think that's what I used to think. So it goes to show you that it only takes one person, one role model, to sort of encourage you. And when she left the BBC, I remember sending her an email to say, I hope you need to know that it was you, because of you, that I was inspired to follow my dream. But then also, there were I think it was also just the general consumption of news as well in our house. And also, I was a bit of a swot at school, loved studying. So it combined a lot of elements, research, writing, broadcasting, performing. It's all in there. It's all wrapped up with so many skills within it. So I think it was that was it really. But I'll be honest, quietly also, I wanted to really get into acting, and that was something that was really discouraged by my parents. So sometimes I do ask myself, did I pursue something which was the acceptable form of performance?
You know what? You have laid down a challenge for yourself now. I'm going to get you to do a monologue of some type. I think we need some acting from you somewhere one day along the line. I'm expecting you at the RSC or Birmingham rep. We've got the contacts. We'll get Sean Foley. Sean Foley anyway, probably at Birmingham rep, and we'll get you to do a little piece in there. I think.
I would like to do vagina monologues one day.
You know what? I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna get something where I'm gonna get you to perform that. That would be absolutely wonderful. For yourself, in the sense that you started in regional current affairs that you started in, and is that where you started?
No, I actually started at 5 Live, at Radio 5 Live in 1999.
Oh, you did say. Yeah.
Okay. So I graduated from university. I spent the first month back in Wolverhampton teaching French students English and getting some money together. And what I did was I took a list of names. Half of them worked in PR and some of them worked in media, and went down to London. Thankfully, we got family there, so there's always a floor to sleep on or a spare bedroom to borrow. And I said to Mum, give me 2 weeks, I'm just going to go and do some networking. And there were 2 guys who worked at Radio 5 Live, had been to my university 10 years before me. I called them up and said, can I come in and have a look around? One was a bit dismissive, the other one was a bit more open. So I sort of pinpointed him down again and said, do you think I could actually come in maybe tomorrow, because I've got 2 weeks in London, just have a look around. So I went in to have a look around, and George Mann, his name is, he showed me the studios and the offices, and before I left, I handed over my CV to the lady who hired broadcast assistants. And it was so precocious, because it said, I always share this because the times were different then. So you were always trying to stand out. And I'd had one interview in TV previously with the Big Brother production company down in London, which was great. That got down to being interviewed, but I didn't get the job when it was a production.
So you could have been the Davina McCall.
Well, I don't think that was a production scheme. You don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think actually no. I think I would have just been the Satnam Rana.
Exactly. Davina McCall is the Satnam Rana of Big Brother.
So I did that. Left my CV. The top page of the CV said Satnam Rana, top banana, the future of broadcasting. believe it? A naive 22-year-old who's graduated from uni. And I just left it there. Anyway, they did giggle about it, but it meant that it stood out on her pile of CVs. And I got a call the next day saying, no promises, but somebody's called in sick. We've got a 1-day casual contract. Would you like to come in? That built up to 2 days the following week, 3 days the week after, 3 months later, a 3-month contract. And it carried on and on until, for a few years, until I got my substantive role when I came over to the West Midlands.
Wow. I mean, you've been there at the BBC for a while now, doing your role. Is it diversity and culture that you do in terms of the Midlands News? Is that your main kind of remit at the moment?
No, so my official title is Arts and Culture.
Okay.
Correspondent at Midlands Day, but obviously I've been doing the job here in the West Midlands. I've been at the BBC for 21 years. I've been in the job in the West Midlands for 19 years. I've done all sorts, from general reporting to pushing South Asian issues and diversity, inclusion. Obviously, arts and culture covers mainstream arts and culture and grassroots arts and culture. For me, my starting point always is stories, to facilitate people to tell their stories. And I think whilst I've had some great moments where I've met, celebrities, been in places and institutions which our parents wouldn't have even dreamt of going to, thus we weren't exposed to them as children. So, the RSC, even going to the local theatre. It's when I go and meet people who are doing things day out, day in, day out, and have with a direct impact in their local communities, that I feel the proudest that I've managed to get a voice which wouldn't necessarily have connected with the BBC and mainstream broadcasting, given them an outlet to tell their story. And that's when I'm the proudest.
And I think, that has an impact on all of us, because obviously when we hear the news and you're kind of like, wow, these are ordinary, everyday people who are just getting on with their lives, and suddenly they're making a massive impact on society, or they've changed something, whether there's self-improvement within themselves, or they're talking about something that they're experiencing, whether it's hardship or whatever. Because sometimes we don't realise what's really going on in the world, and I assume you're kind of part of that voice.
It's not just that. I think it's also, everyone's got a story to tell, but people don't feel that their story is valid. And then if somebody like me turns up and says, oh, tell me your story, and I'm going to get it on the local, onto the regional news. Well, actually, you're validating their story, aren't you? It's that allyship.
Yeah.
We're talking about at the moment. And I think that is really central to sort of my ethos, my work ethos. It's sort of, the older I've got, the more I've learned to look at my blind spot. And don't get me wrong, I've been through periods of time where I've sort of lost sight of that. But the older you get, the more comfortable you get, the more experienced you get, I guess you hone in on, actually, what am I doing and what is the purpose of this, other than self-gratification. What is it I'm here for?
Have you ever had that element where you're interviewing someone and going, this isn't going down the direction I expected it to go down, and it's almost kind of, oh my gosh, I don't know whether we want to share this, or there's too much information, too much detail, or they've gone down a path where you kind of think that's too much of a taboo subject and had to withdraw? Or
no subject is taboo. No subject is taboo. Okay. For a journalist. Everything is valid and should have, if it's worthy of to be spoken of person to person, then it's worthy to be shared with other people via media outlets. That's my view. We're here to challenge. We're here to broaden people's perspectives and for people to make their own mind up in a very independent and responsible and trustworthy way. I don't think I've ever so no. The answer, I guess, the outright answer to that is no. I've had interviews that have gone a bit pear-shaped. I'm not going to name names, but I've been on red carpets when certain celebrities haven't been that nice, and then viewers have messaged saying, oh, well done for holding it together, because if it was me, I would have just lost it, and this and that. There've been other times when I remember very early on at Midlands Today, a Saturday shift I was doing, and it was when it was the organ retention story for the baby parts that were kept by hospitals, and this woman had got a baby parts her child back basically, and was doing a funeral 16 years after a child had died. And I just remember doing the interview, asking one question, but she just obviously had so much pent up over 16 years, and she kept going, she kept talking and talking, and it was quite graphic. And obviously we couldn't at 5:30 on Saturday afternoon include everything, but that's something which always sticks with me, because I was young, I was impressionable, it was a hard story, it was a challenging story from a journalism point of view. You know, I was early 20s, I was meant to be going out on Saturday night, but I got home and I was so exhausted emotionally that I decided not to go out. I ended up in the Munda actually. My friend had a all night, what do you call it, Jagran on, and so I ended up in there, just sort of digesting it all and talking to my immediate crew about what had happened.
Oh my gosh! So there can be some things which are quite harrowing.
Oh gosh, yeah, and also, I guess a lot of it comes sort of in the early days when it's first experiences. So when the Paddington railway crash happened, was it Paddington? Yes, it was Paddington.
Yeah.
It must be 1999 when I joined. I remember being at Television Centre and we saw smoke coming up in the distance. We're like, something's gone on, there's a gas explosion or something, but actually it was a train crash. And then, even though I was new and I was a broadcast assistant, we were all onto the emergency services, and I got the fire brigade on, and I remember feeling this great sense like, yes, I got the fire brigade on, and I was the person behind that. That's brilliant from a journalism point of view. And then I got home, and boy did I weep. So we are humans. At work, we are doing our job, but our reactions sometimes come a little bit delayed and afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I assume spirituality has played quite an important role, and we will talk more about that in terms of obviously well-being, as you say, because things can affect you. And maybe I want to touch on obviously your own experience of something that you went through, which was you had breast cancer. Well, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. Was it back in 2017? And yes. You shared video diaries, which were, you know, very informative, kind of that whole journey that you went through from the moment you were diagnosed, from getting your results, and then kind of just sharing your particular journey and obviously showing the emotional side of it. And what was great was that you also set up this campaign. Was it called Check the Mount?
Yeah, hashtag Check the Mount.
Check the Mount. So firstly, how is your health?
Yeah, good. I'm 3 years on, and you know, the more years that pass, the further away you get from it. I mean, I have to take medication every day, so I guess that's a reminder. But I'm almost on autopilot. I just pop the pill. I try and keep myself as healthy as possible, as calm as possible, because I think stress does contribute to all this sort of stuff as well. And just take. I think the biggest thing it's taught me is perspective. I just sort of live in the moment rather than worrying too much about the future or dwelling too much on the past.
In terms of the campaign that you started, is that still going now at the moment? Check the Mount? Well,
I suppose I tend to sort of resurrect it around Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or if something's happened, then I'll, you know, hashtag check them out. I'll remind people. So I'll probably say, no, it was something that happened at the time and in the subsequent years, but I tend to ramp it up around October, hashtag check them out, just to remind everybody. And it's a simple thing of check your breasts, get to know them, man or woman. If you notice a difference, don't sit around, go and see a GP.
And that's quite interesting, isn't it? You know, you said man or woman, because men think, oh, I won't get breast cancer, but they can get breast cancer.
Yeah, and I have met a couple of men along the way who've had breast cancer, so yeah, it's not just a female thing.
And is it an easy thing to chat to, do you think, with the Asian community generally and the Black community, where they because there's always that thing, isn't there, whereby I think there's a lot of it in our communities. I want to say that, I mean, Asian communities, I think maybe also in the Black community, where people don't talk about these subjects because it's just, we don't want to go there. You know, you'll get some Auntie G going, have some turmeric, you know, have some black pepper, you'll be fine. I don't know whether you had all that, you know, as you were going through it. And I know they mean well. And obviously they have various antibodies, those kind of things and that, but they're not going to resolve everything, but it may aid it.
I think, I'm lucky because we've got so many medics in our family. I'm from, you know, my starting point is of a to a certain degree, privilege. And the privilege of having knowledge and medical knowledge on your immediate doorstep is great. So you know that actually the fixes are going to happen with just holistic stuff. You need medical intervention. It was, yeah, simple. I didn't actually have anybody sort of saying that sort of stuff, but I did have the whole haldi turmeric milk, and I drank it after my operation to help with healing. Because those are things that we were brought up with. So if I get a sore throat, the first thing I do is boil up some cloves and and cardamom and honey and ginger. It's just what we were brought up with. So I guess I don't blame people for going there, because that's what is natural to them. But actually, you need to the cancer has to be cut out. It has to be taken out of my body. So I need that operation. Now, when I got diagnosed, I didn't keep it a secret, because you know what, I tell other people's stories, and I encourage other people who sometimes may think that it's a taboo subject to share their stories, because it can facilitate change. And when I was diagnosed, I obviously was really upset. It was a massive personal thing. When I pushed along the way to get some answers earlier than they officially came. So I knew that I had cancer after my biopsy, but my official results didn't come until a week later. I didn't know what form, I didn't know how bad it was and all that sort of stuff. And that night of my biopsy, I couldn't sleep. I was absolutely devastated. We were going on holiday the next day. We travelled out to London to my uncle and aunt's house, and everything was just happening really quickly, and I was just trying to get my head around everything, because I've had this biopsy and I think, oh, it might be a lumpectomy, but then my cousin's saying, actually, you've got 2 tumours, that it's going to be a mastectomy. Just start thinking about that as well, because that's probably what they will say to you. So there's lots going on in my head. Couldn't sleep. I was on my own because I was very bruised and battered. They punctured me left, right and centre. And I listened to my Shabbads, my Sikh hymns, on my phone throughout the night. I wept in parts, but I also had sort of almost a very open, honest conversation with, I don't always say God, it was the universe, because I don't, and that conversation went along the lines of, okay, I can't change this. You've given this to me. You've given this to me for a reason. Now, I can go away and quietly deal with this and then go back to work in 6 months' time. Or I can make some noise, because people don't really talk about it amongst our community openly. And why did you become a journalist? What can you do with this great set of skills that you've acquired over 2 decades? Can you put it to good? Can some good come out of this terrible situation? I think that's what I was motivated by. Now, a counsellor a year on said to me, well, that was your crutch and your coping mechanism, that's fine. But my starting point was that very spiritual experience that I had that night. And once I made that my mind up, that was it. Regardless of what people were going to say, oh, you shouldn't talk about it, what have you, I was going to talk about it. And when I spoke to so this was already forming in my head. When I was diagnosed and I spoke to my mum about, Mum, I'm thinking about this. Mum with the NHS hat on, she went, yeah, why not? If it raises awareness, then why not? And my nanny, who's 90 years old now, said to, she was really upset. And in one breath she said, oh, well, you mustn't talk about it too much with people. And I said, well, actually, I'm about to broadcast.
Oh, gosh.
On BBC. Then she was like, oh, I suppose it's okay. It's good to teach people. And then, she started going on about all the women she knew who'd had breast cancer. So already a change without even broadcasting had been done, because there was open dialogue going on in the family. And then that just continued. And since then, I get invited to do talks at the big cancer researchers and Breast Cancer Haven, big charities, mainstream charities. But then I also get invited to do talks at community centres. And I did one for International Women's Day last year at one of the big mandirs in Sparkbrook. And there were 1,000 odd women there, and shared my story. And at the end, there was a long line of women saying, oh, Beta, I had it. And the women who had organised this event hadn't realised that these aunties had had breast cancer in the past. So just amongst themselves, to be able to be open and to talk, that you've made a difference there. And so for me, I hang on to those things. I just hang on to those things that, you know, because on the one hand, and I had massive moments of angst thinking, am I being self-indulgent with these films? You know, it was a really hard, obviously I did the initial awareness raising as everything was going on, and then a year later I did the 4 social media films, which effectively was everything I had done real time, but pulling it together in some sort of cohesive form and looking at themes. And my editor, I worked with Matthew Jinks. He sat with me, and I almost went through it all over again, you know, later, looking at those videos. But every step of the way, he challenged me. Well, why are you saying that? Why did you feel like that? What does that mean? And actually, it was a really, one, cathartic experience, but 2, really interesting way of sort of dealing with that angst of self-indulgence versus public service.
No, I think with what you did it's just absolutely wonderful. As you said, it raises awareness, it creates conversation. I mean, I've got, your videos are still available online, which people can.
Oh yeah, they are still available online. And I think at some point, it's on my to-do list for lockdown. I'm going to see if I can try and pull them together onto some sort of web page if I can. And they are on YouTube. I have checked them out on YouTube, I think, but you can find them. But as with the internet, you have to tap in the right keywords, don't you? But if you put Satnam Rana BBC cancer films, I'm sure you'd find them.
Yeah, and I'd say it's created awareness for me, because like I've watched the videos, I've had conversations with my wife, with my daughter, you know, that whole kind of thing, even with my son. And it's that thing sometimes whereby, it's a terrible thing, but men are just terrible. We're kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I don't want to talk about anything. But suddenly what it does is it creates conversation, and you're like, this is something which is very important. Something else I kind of wanted to talk about, which is kind of, it is connected, and it's the other side. And I know of friends and family, you know, like yourself, who've gone through, in terms of your experience. I think it's sometimes where friends and families, do you think sometimes they can be over concerning? And it's because obviously whoever's going through it, and I'm not in that situation where I've gone through something like that, you've gone through something like that, whereby you're kind of going, I need my space, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you about it. I know you mean well. Is there something that people need to take away from this if they're on the other side of it, to kind of go, look, they're doing this for a reason, or do they need to keep persevering and kind of keep sending messages and kind of, I'm not saying phoning you up every day or texting you every 10 minutes going, listen, we haven't messaged me. Are you okay? Are you okay? I assume it's that kind of thing that I'm kind of, because everyone does get concerned.
I think, yeah. So I got a mixture. There were like some people saying, you know, who obviously knew what I'd gone through, but didn't want to overtly talk about it. And others did want to talk about it. And I kind of just like, at the time, I think you're in self-preservation mode. So you know, if you talk to women, one of the commonalities we have is that you go into fight mode for yourself. You become really selfish in that moment in time, probably the most selfish I've ever been, but that's the only way you can get through it. So at that moment in time, I'm not particularly concerned about how everybody else is feeling around me. Just got to get myself through this. It's taking up so much energy waiting for results, and then, you know, going through the big operation and then trying to recover on the other end. And I was lucky actually, because we don't live particularly near our family. We're 50 minutes away from the nearest set of parents. But my mum came and stayed with me. She bathed me. She bathed me when I came home. I turned back into her baby. I was 40 years old, but she was having to wash me because I couldn't do it. I couldn't lift my arm. And she stayed here for the first 10 days. And I will be forever grateful that she did. But my mum knows me and gives me my space when I need it. And you know, that's a great thing. And then the extended family, they popped in and they kept in touch. I think anybody who is in that position, take your guidance from the person, but if there's a wall of silence, also ask yourself, should I just drop in and see how this person is? And there was a time when I was, you know, I was at my sister's 12 days after the operation, absolutely drugged up, have no idea how I went then. I was all smiles and, oh, this is okay, you know, I'm on tramadol, I'm fine. And then a few weeks later, it needed to hit me, and then a few months later, it hit me even more. And at that point, I was exhausted, because I was exhausted of explaining to people. And so I had this sort of epiphany where I thought to myself, right, enough is enough. You need to get some professional help here. And I did. I went to Breast Cancer Haven, which is the charity dedicated to breast cancer patients in Solihull, and I sought some counselling. So I had tap therapy and verbal counselling there to help me sort of get back on my feet a little bit and not be exhausted by it all, because I think I was becoming exhausted by everything, the social media, the awareness raising, answering people's questions because I'm quite transparent, and it was all crashing down on me a little bit. So I had to step away, fix myself to be in a position then to be able to cope with things. So I was going back to work at the same time as well, and it was, it's difficult because my soul was crushed. My soul was completely crushed, and I was rebuilding my soul. And being on TV and forward facing and public facing, I just wasn't quite sure how I was going to go back to being that vibrant person that I knew pre-operation. And for a few weeks I thought, oh gosh, is my light completely out? It wasn't. It was still flickering, a little flicker in the background. But with help from professionals, I reignited it. And then I had to go back there a year later again. I went back to counselling a year. So 2017. So I probably went back to counselling beginning of last year, 2019 again, because I found myself in a place where I couldn't quite cope again with staff. And so I went back and sought help, and that helped me. And here I am now.
And I assume the message to a certain degree is like, in terms of checking them out as well, keep doing it. It's not a case of where it's just one thing. In terms of counselling, keep doing it as well. It's not a case of where you just need it for one period. It's a case of you may need to just do it different stages of our lives continually, whether it's a year, 2 years.
Sometimes, just having a third party helps. So I suppose, going back to that original question, if you're a person on the other side and you notice these things, encourage that person to seek professional help. It is okay. And I was only on the phone to my friend last night, and she was saying, "Oh, how are you now?" I was like, "Yeah, the further away you get, the more years that you clock, the further away you get from it. But I can speak completely immediately back in it when I'm around a circle of women who've got breast cancer, and then we'll, have a little bit of a chat about the everyday stuff. But overall, it's fine. It happened. I have dealt with it. I don't ignore the times when I need to re-deal with it. But yeah, I consider myself to be very lucky.
So for you, just kind of briefly on your spiritual journey, you were saying earlier on in the interview that that's played a major part for you, especially during this lockdown period itself. So are you turning more to God or the universe, or are you finding, is it yoga? Is it a combination of things where you're kind of, whether it's mantras or having space and time to yourself, or a combination, or none of those?
The lockdown for me was absolutely fine because I'd already had this 3-year journey since cancer where I've learned to live in the present. So when lockdown happened, I was like, right, you can't change this, it's happening, so we're just going to have to deal with it, and we have to find, ways around it. Now, fortunately, I'm in a position where I still have a job, I'm still working, and therefore not a lot changed apart from the way we were producing news. So, there was still sort of a routine to the day, which I think helps. From a spiritual point of view, those first few weeks were quite, there was a certain level of anxiety, because what I did, and this is something that I do again intermittently, I started writing 3 things down that brought me joy at the end of the day, and those involved, back then, I've got a broken toe right now, so I've not been able to run for the last month, but I just completed, just before lockdown, my Couch to 5K, which I know that you have been doing as well. You
inspired me again to do that. Gosh.
It's really weird because you put it up and you inspired me, because I saw you and I was like, well, we've got to keep going.
And now you've done 10K now. Have you done 10K?
Yeah, I'm so gutted because my second 10K, and what happens is, so I did the Couch to 5K, and then we went into lockdown. That was like the week before I graduated. I went into lockdown and kept it up. And then I thought, when the Help for NHS Heroes, I can't remember the exact hashtag, but the money to raise for NHS charities came up. I thought to myself, before lockdown finishes, I am going to do at least one 10k. And I just woke up sort of one morning and thought to myself, today's the day, just keep running. Run, Satnam, run! And I'm not really running. Sometimes I'm like nearly walking, but I did it. And it took me an hour and a half to do it as well.
Which is brilliant, which is brilliant.
And then I was meant to do it again for another charity, this time for one of the breast cancer charities, but then I broke my toe the night before. So I will do it, but I'm probably going to have to start again.
So what other things are you doing? What other things are you doing? Running's one thing.
Running helped, and yoga. I do yoga, but obviously again everything's been on pause. I've been doing chair aerobics instead and chair pilates where I can over this recovery period. But yoga is a big thing for me because it helps center and keeps me rooted. It helps center my mind and it keeps me rooted as well. And there's nothing like controlling your own self, like through your own breathing, basically. And just having that stillness of mind in a very busy, noisy world that we live in, and a very busy, noisy lifestyle that I have, although I've quietened it down since cancer. I've been reading a lot. I've had the indulgence of reading over the last 4 weeks because I've had my foot up and not been out and about. So my husband had bought me Humble the Poet's book, 101 Ways to Live a Simpler Life, for I think Mother's Day, and I hadn't got around to reading it. And I read that, and as I read it, I was thinking, wow, this guy's great. Why did I know about him already? Because you're not young enough to be on Insta and follow these influencers. As I was reading it, a lot of his sort of his, I guess, viewpoints are rooted in Sikhism, which is what I've been brought up in. So it really spoke to me. I'm just like broadening my knowledge and mind. I'm one of these people that likes to sort of read and escape, and sometimes it's factual, sometimes it's fiction. And the rest has been just keeping in touch with friends and family through Zoom, and that is also part of it, isn't it? We really are missing face-to-face interaction. We're missing empty dinner tables on a Saturday night, and the ability to just sit around and chat with mates. That's kind of what we're missing the most now.
Finally, I just kind of really want to go on to where do we, in a few years, with Satnam Rana, where is she going to be? I mean, we always see you on BBC Midlands Today. I mean, for myself, I always kind of tend to think, you should be on Crime Watch or Watchdog, those kind of programs. Do you have aspirations to kind of be on things like that? Or is it a case of, I am just BBC Midlands Today, that's it, I'm not doing anything else? Or do you kind of...
No, I've had aspirations, I'm not going to lie, I've had aspirations along the way, and I've done especially in sort of my first decade, I was approached and I did show reels, and I went off and did auditions, and didn't get onto some of the network programs, but other people were slightly ahead of me, or for whatever reason. I don't know. There have been other occasions where I have tried, and I'm not going to lie, I've had things said to me along the lines of, well, we've already got so and so here, so you then walk away thinking, okay, so they can only accommodate one.
Yeah, they've already ticked that. They've already ticked that box.
One South Asian face, and that's been said to me. And unfortunately, I think maybe that is stuck in my mind a little bit too much. And therefore, the comfort zone has always been Midlands Today, where I feel as if I am making a change, and I can have a bit of influence and persuasion and effect, direct impact on local communities to tell their stories. And there's great value in regional journalism, because we come up with the idea, we research it, and we go off and do it. And that doesn't necessarily happen at a network level, which is why I think I probably haven't sort of pushed for that. I have done network stuff though. I'm very, very lucky for a regional. I'm going to rephrase that. I've worked really hard as a regional journalist to have impact beyond the region. So I've been to Pakistan and again over a decade ago did a few pieces in Karachi, which made it onto BBC World and BBC America, and Newsnight. I've done lives into BBC Breakfast. I've done a piece for the 6 o'clock news, but it's not been a regular thing. It's been in addition to Midlands Today. I think I just like that freedom of being able to own your own story when you're working in the regions, and there's something quite beautiful about that. And obviously I work for the current affairs team in the Midlands as well, Inside Out. And along the way, I've had my own radio show, I've done a podcast, I've stepped in for Nihal when he used to do the phone-in programme on the Asian Network, I've done some mainstream presenting on BBC WM. So there's been a variety, even though it looks like it's just Midlands Day, I have done other stuff. When it came to the big shows, a lot of that is about talent, and I never really quite understood the structures of the corporation. And it's taken me quite a bit of time to try and get my head around it. I still don't always understand it. A lot of that talent is based on freelance contracts. And I'll be honest, I couldn't afford to do that. I came out of university with a load of debt and I had to work. When I said to my mum, I actually, the way to get on into journalism and to get in at an entry point as a journalist would be for me to do a postgrad in journalism. She said, we can't afford to do that because we've got to get the other three through university, so I had to find work. And I share this openly because it's really, really important, because I am a person who's quite privileged, but privilege comes at different levels, doesn't it? Yeah. They had their own views for that, and couldn't afford it, and I couldn't afford to add to my university debt as well. So I found myself a job and decided I'd work my way up in the corporation. I think the thing that helped me was the traineeship that I got when I came to BBC Birmingham. So I went from being a broadcast assistant to a researcher at 5 Live. I was starting to do journalist shifts there, and this traineeship came up and I got onto it, and then that obviously facilitated work in radio and TV. So I think that's probably why you haven't seen me on network programs. It's not that I haven't had the ambition. I just.
So do you want to stay here, or do you want to move into other areas? If I had that magic wand and I went, Satnam, you can be on any program that you want to, what kind of program would you want to do?
I think it probably would, for me, have to be a magazine style program where you've got a combination of news and current affairs and sort of facilitating conversation.
Brilliant.
I think that's what it would be, which is what my radio show used to be, Midlands Masala and WM. It still exists, and very well does it now. It was very much about that. It was a combination of arts, culture, and current affairs and news, but most importantly, giving a voice to people who wouldn't normally have got onto BBC WM. And I think that's really, really important. Where do I see myself in the future? It's not necessarily in broadcasting, I'll be honest. I think my spiritual journey has come to a point where I'm looking at what can I do with 21 years of broadcasting experience, where I have told the stories and helped build bridges into the BBC. Where can I take that skill set, and how can I influence and persuade and change and have even greater impact at a regional level? I believe in the Midlands. The reason why I could move, I was approached at the beginning of the year, but I said it wasn't the right time, and actually I don't want to move from the Midlands because I was born here. I believe in it. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. There's way too much hype about Manchester as far as I'm concerned, and way too much about London. I like living here because I can get to London quickly. I do love London, but I love coming out of it as well. But Birmingham, it's got so much going for it. Look, when we were kids growing up, it was, quite frankly, a bit of a not a pleasant place to be all the time, but we used to come from Wolverhampton to Birmingham because it was still better than being in Wolverhampton. But the surrounding towns and Greater Birmingham and Birmingham as a city, there's so much change going on, and we've got the Commonwealth Games coming, and what a fantastic time to be a Midlander. And I think for me it's that advocating that, and to try and encourage talent to look on their doorstep for opportunities, rather than racing off down to London, which obviously I did do in the beginning as well. That's going to happen.
So what we're kind of looking at is watch this space.
Something like that, yeah. I'm working it out. It'll be sort of part 2 of my career.
But listen, Satnam, it's been so lovely chatting to you. I've got to shoot.
You.
I could carry on. I really could.
No.
I could speak to you for another hour. Maybe this should be a part 2. I'm going to look out for a book as well, by the way. So not only am I going to get you to do a monologue, I'm going to look out for the Satnam Rana, from Sati to Satnam. I think maybe the title of your book. And
Satnam, yeah, Satnam Sam, Sati Satnam.
or Satnam Top Banana, was it? I don't know, whatever it was. It Satnam Rana Top
Oh,
Banana.
it's Satnam Rana Top Banana. That was basically because at university, that's what I used to put on my election posters, because I was always part of the student.
There's the title. I think you've got the title of your book already. But so lovely chatting to you. Keep us updated with whatever's going. Thank you so much. I'm going to just stop recording.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Always is. And keep up the good work. It's good to see you doing your thing.
I try. You're the inspiration. Thank you. I'm stopping recording now.